welcome back to my channel where we talk all things motherhood, pregnancy, newborn phase, toddler phase, all the things to navigate in motherhood that you could think of. We talk about here on the channel. If that sounds like your jam, go ahead and click the subscribe button and join the fam. It's my goal to hit 1,000 subscribers this year in 2024, and I don't know when you're watching this, but I think I'm getting close, and the only way I can get there is with your help. So if you're watching another one of my videos and you think that this is gonna be helpful to you, please subscribe and hit that like button so that YouTube knows that somebody out there liked this video. So let's just jump right into the topic for today, which is 5 mistakes that you might be making if you're breastfeeding and you're like beyond the newborn phase. So this is like 5 mistakes that you'll be making that are not like latch related. You know, this is once you've established a good milk supply and then all of a sudden it starts dipping like sooner than you want to stop breastfeeding. You might be doing some things wrong, and I think I can help you out with that. So let's just jump right into it. The number one thing that you could be doing wrong is cutting feeds too short. So this might happen if you've already gotten really comfortable with getting those longer stretches of sleep. Then you start really, prioritizing your sleep and kind of getting, what's the right word? You start getting protective of your sleep. And then you wake up in the middle of the night, maybe the baby needs a feed, or it's like right before 4 or 5 a.m. is when my baby likes to wake up to do one last feed before he actually like wakes up for the day. And then this feed can sometimes be cut short because you're just like, oh, you're going to feed again in like an hour or two. And like, I need to go back to bed and I just want to go to sleep. So you might not finish fully nursing your baby when you cut him off and then move to the next boob, or sometimes just not move on to the next boob and just put him back to sleep and go move on. I've done this so many times. And then I started noticing a change in my milk supply. So that's when I started thinking like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be cutting those feeds short because my body's starting to make less breast milk because it thinks it doesn't need it, and it does. So what you want to do is you just want to be patient. If this is something that is your goal to go to the year mark or maybe the 2-year mark, the American Academy of Pediatrics does recommend now that you breastfeed your baby until 2 years old, if possible. Obviously, this isn't possible for everybody. Sometimes people have to go back to work or, whatever the case may be, or you just don't want to for your own, mental health or your physical health or whatever it is. But there is a new recommendation that just got put out in 2023 for a longer breastfeeding journey. So if you do want to make it to that goal, one of the ways that you can do that is by being patient and making sure that each breast is fully getting emptied out before you move on. Now, some things that can interfere with that, feeding being cut short, that might not be you doing it. It might be the baby doing it. He might be getting fussy, or maybe he's sick, or maybe he's teething, he or she. And one of those things that you could do then is by, pumping to meet that demand if he or she did not fully empty out your breasts, or just trying again. Like sometimes the baby will like unlatch and like get all fussy and whine and throw himself back and do whatever the things. And then you just need to keep, being consistent with putting the boob back in their mouth. The one thing that I like to do with my baby is I always wear like a hoodie or something. So then it's super easy to breastfeed. I just lift it up. But he'll play with my drawstrings. So like I'll just put the both strings. He like tugs on it. And then we become like a tug of war partner and baby kind of sesh here. And we're like fighting. And it's keeping him entertained. So he's like nursing the whole time. And he doesn't really notice that he's still nursing when he doesn't want to, like, because he's fussy or whatever. It just keeps him going. And you just got to do what you got to do at the end of the day to meet the goal of making sure that the baby is getting enough milk out. The second thing that you could be doing wrong is feeding on the clock. Sometimes especially once you start getting comfortable with your breastfeeding journey, you start to get into a routine and you're like, well, my baby only nurses when he first wakes up from a nap and when he first wakes up in the morning and then when he goes to sleep at night or whatever. And then you just stick to that. And then you're like, this is when he nurses and then that's it. And if that's working for you and if that's what you want to do, like if that's the end goal and that's the only amount of milk that you want to make, then that's fine. But if you're starting to notice a dip and then it's making him fussier during those feeding times because he's not getting enough milk, it's probably because you need to be feeding more on demand-ish to when you notice those hunger cues. So sometimes like during the day, they'll be going about their business. And obviously I have a sippy cup or you know, a bottle that I might give him like with almond milk or regular cow's milk or whatever. But I want to resort to the breast first, and then to see if he is thirsty and he just needed some replenishing, that he gets it from breastfeeding first. And if he did, or he needed more, then I obviously resort to the sippy, make sure that he stays nice and hydrated throughout the day. But I stopped breastfeeding him during the day just because I thought, well, he only nurses when he goes to sleep and when he wakes up. And then I started noticing a huge dip to where even in those morning and evening feeds, I wasn't making enough. So then I had to power pump girl and had to go through the whole thing. But the way that I prevented that from happening again was to make sure that anytime I feel like he might need some milk, I go ahead and present that to him. The third thing that you could be doing wrong is not being too confident in your own self, your own supply, especially like when your period returns, there is a dip in your supply, at least with a lot of women there is. And then your baby might get extra fussy because they're not able to get the letdown that they're normally used to, because hormonally your letdown doesn't happen as easily or as great, I guess, when you're on your period than it does when you're not. And so then there could be nursing strikes. You know, your baby could be teething and therefore doing a nursing strike from there. And then you might put it in your own head like, well, maybe my baby's just done. Maybe this is the end of the road. Like, what do I do? Maybe my baby doesn't want to nurse anymore. And then you get that lack of confidence in yourself. And then you start to accidentally wean your baby. So what you want to do is know that these times are just temporary. So what you can do temporarily in these times is pump to meet the demand that your baby you would normally have. So when you're pumping and you're on your period, you're not going to be getting much out, but you're still telling your breasts to make milk because you're trying to empty out any last little drops. And you're also, anytime you put, you know, the pump onto you, you're telling your body like, hey, there's a demand, make more milk. So it is something that you want to do during those times. Just add a pump session or two. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, just 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. And then also when they're like teething and things like that, and you need to supplement with, you know, other milks. Like, oh, I didn't mention earlier, my baby does have almond milk and cow's milk, but that's because he's over the age of 1. So obviously if your baby is not that old, so then don't do that unless your doctor has cleared you okay to do that. But, you know, supplement with formula or other frozen breast milk or whatever you want to do for that supplementation portion. But you don't want to like heavily rely on that either, because then when you start doing that, then your baby's getting the demands met from the bottle by getting formula or your frozen breast milk, and therefore they're not going to be at the breast as long. So then they're also not telling your breasts to make more milk, and it's like a vicious cycle. So really, it's just something you got to power through. You just got to have confidence in your supply and yourself and in the breast milk. Those dips, due to whatever changes are happening, whether in your baby's life or your life, they're temporary and it'll be fine. Now, number 4 thing I mentioned, I have a 1-year-old. They get very distracted when they get older, especially once they meet that 1 mark. They're just like, go, go, go. I know there's a world out there. Like, I am ready to party. I do not want to be here being on boring breastfeeding duties. Like, I want to move on. So one thing you want to do is when they're that distracted, you want to stop those distractions by putting them in a dark, quiet room. So what I like to do is, you know, when I go into his room, I keep the door closed. It's still blacked out in there. I just turn on a very soft light. That's like a little twinkle light kind of situation, just so I can see what I'm doing. And then I breastfeed him in that kind of setting, very calm, very dark, nothing else. And then along with my drawstrings that he can like play with or whatever and pull on. You could bring bracelets in, or another fun distraction, because you could just either show him on your wrist and like they're like pulling at it, or you could take it off and then like kind of, you know, play with it and maneuver it like that. Or necklaces that are like nice and like chinkly, so they like make a lot of noise and like they're kind of fun to play with. You kind of got to be dinner and a show. Once your baby gets a little older and you want to keep them entertained long enough to do a full breastfeeding session, you got to do some entertaining. Yes, necklaces, drawstrings, bracelets, a hat, glasses if you wear glasses, like whatever. Just anything that they can like play with while they're nursing will keep them distracted and entertained, and they won't be so abrupt to try to like move on and like push you away and like get on with their life. So give that a whirl. Number 5, lastly, the thing that you can be doing that is going to harm your milk supply is putting too much pressure on your milk supply. Like, am I making enough? Oh my gosh, like now my boobs don't feel the same. They're softer. Like that means I'm not making enough. Like I've lost it. It's you know, I'm mature in this breastfeeding stage. It's like I'm not going to make it to the 1-year-old mark or whatever your stressors are about not making as much milk as you once did. You got to remember, as your baby ages, so does your body, and it regulates, and your milk supply does too. So mature breast milk is a much different composition than earlier on months breast milk is. It is still filled with a lot of nutrients. It's higher in fat though, and it's higher in calories. Even though there might be less volumetric wise, it's denser. So it's going to be meeting your baby's needs amazingly. I don't know exactly the science behind it. All I know is that the composition of breast milk changes along with you and your baby to meet the baby's needs, and it's like magic. It's crazy. Even 20 to 40 mLs that you look at and you're just like, how is this gonna be enough for my baby? Like, it will, nutrients wise, if you want to, you know, supplement with other drinks and stuff to make sure that they're being hydrated obviously after the 1-year mark. That's a different story. But you know, breast milk is 97 or 98% water. And yet, with it being that high of concentration in water, it has all these great nutrients and benefits and antibodies. It's amazing. So I totally understand you, mama, and your journey to want to keep going. And I'm on that same boat. I want to keep going for as long as my baby wants to, especially with that new recommendation that came out from the American Academy of Pediatrics. It'd be amazing if we could make it to 2. Every day is a blessing in this journey, and I take it as such. So it's just, you know, I'm going to keep doing what I do to keep this milk supply going. And so far, it's going great. So yeah, I want to wish you all the best luck, mama. And I hope that these tips were able to help you today. Let me know down in the comments below what struggles you might be having, or having. I might have, you know, something that I went through that's similar that I can give you my advice for, just based on what I've gone through. And yeah, no matter what, mama, you are exactly the mama that your baby needs, and you're doing great. So just keep doing you. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thanks.
You glue all the pieces back together. Yeah, you take all my wrongs and make them better. Yeah, you